supposed to be a snowstorm that went through the whole US, and now we're at the tail end of it.
All right. Yeah.
We're getting all of it.
Okay.
My favorite thing to do is to shovel snow. Not a very pleasant thing to do, but I guess it brings a lot of patients with back pain afterwards. So anyway, welcome. And any subjects anyone wants to raise, questions, comments?
I just wanted to say thanks, Camille, for the handout after the last day we were together on the stroke handout.
Was that helpful for you?
Yes, very helpful. Thank you very much. Yeah, Abby forwarded it on to me.
And how is that patient doing?
Much the same, really. I'm seeing him again now in about just over a week. So I might try something new then.
Well, I don't recall how long it's been since the incident, but the stroke. But Dr. Zhu usually says that the best window is in the first week, and then within 6 months, and then after a year, there's not a lot of return.
Yeah. Yes, it was definitely over 6 months, I think, when you came first.
Okay. Well, then you still have some opportunity.
Yeah.
I will say, not that I have any weight versus Dr. Zhu.
Well, absolutely you do, because you have other methods.
Yeah, but I will say that I've had people come like 10 years now. It all depends on what they have, obviously. So I think it's true that the major recovery happens in the first, few months to a year. But there are people for whom there's stuff that's left over. I've had people who've come 10 years later with totally contracted hands, or fallen, what do you call this thing when the foot falls and doesn't comply?
Foot drop.
Yeah. Thank you. Too much shoveling. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's a very sophisticated medical term.
Yes, and it's in English too instead of Latin. I couldn't get it. So anyway, I've had people where I've treated that, like, say, years later, even 10 years later, and there's like remarkable recovery even after one treatment. So I think that the problem is this, that, and especially, that for someone like Zhu, who gets people right after stroke, they're looking at it very differently. They're looking at people who we would say are in rehab or in hospitals. And we don't get them at all. So they're saying, oh, well, yeah, listen, the major improvement tends to happen in the immediate phase, when you can really, the plasticity is much greater. But there are things that stay afterwards. Now, I will say I don't have a lot of experience with speech afterwards, years later. But I do have experience with limited ability of using the hand or the leg, and that definitely can work years later. It's definitely, so I think it depends on the point of view that what you're aiming at. So if you're aiming at restoring someone had a stroke very recently, and yeah, probably 80% of their capacity is going to come back in the first year. But when you're then talking about fine tuning, and, in other words, if the whole arm is paralyzed and they couldn't move at all, that's going to happen at the beginning. But then when you're talking about, okay, can you get them more dexterity and things like that, that I think can happen later. So I think it all depends on what you're aiming at.
And that's a very good point. We tried this new thing on my patient this week, which is not acupuncture, but I want to share it with you because it really worked tremendously. As you know, or as I think I've said, he has almost no motor control in his body, but we tried this new stimulator called Saebo, S-A-E-B-O. And
Uh-huh.
essentially it's a glove, or you could have a glove, or you could put it around the foot. And it runs a very gentle low level current that you could do for 30 minutes, or you could put on a cycle of 20 minutes on, 40 minutes off.
Mm-hmm.
And after the first 24 hours that we did it, he started wiggling his fingers.
Oh, wow. Cool.
It really was very clear and noticeable positive impact. So it's SAEBO, and they're not expensive. They're maybe like each glove or something like that is maybe, I think, $100 and something.
And it's in the open market.
It's you can get it online. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Which is really interesting because it suggests also, because I mean, granted, the electrical, you're stimulating the peripheries and you're stimulating the skin with, I mean, I haven't seen it, but it's interesting that it's not just in the brain. I mean, it suggests that you can actually work outside the brain to create things.
And interestingly enough, looking at the data, it's made with something that I'd never heard of before, called intelligent textiles.
Uh-huh.
And there's, I could send you a research paper on it if you like, because I did look it up.
Yeah.
But basically what they're saying in the research study is that it does change the brain, even though it's like, for instance, he wears one on his elbow and the other on his hand, and it's just running current through there. But they say that it does change the spinal cord and brain based on their data.
Cool. Amazing.
Yeah, I'll send that research paper and the link, and then you can forward it on to Mary Jo as well.
Thank you. And you've seen it and you're working with it. So is it something that has to fit on something like, because you said you can put it on the elbow, does it have to be something that you surround it with? Can you put it on a hip?
Yeah, there are sizes. So you could get small, medium, and large, and you just, like, for instance, you measure the size of the person's arm, and buy the appropriate size. Yes.
Cool. Thank you. Very interesting. Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah. This patient has been quite an expansion for me.
Yes.
Finding new realms.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's it's amazing. I mean, I was thinking about that, that there are many ways of working. Like for most of us, especially at the beginning, we're looking to treat as many patients as possible. And then there's a time when actually treating as very few patients is actually what can really transform us. So
it's true.
It's a really interesting method.
Well, and it's nice after this long to still find challenges. To have to really still step up to higher levels is nice, and not feel like it's same old thing. Yeah.
Although patients always make sure that it's not the same old, even though it is the same old
right
thing.
Yeah,
always a method in which it isn't. So
yeah. And every time I say that or feel that, I get a very strong kick in the butt.
Yeah. I know what you mean. There's a certain rut we get into. There's no question. And then for a while you go, oh, where's my challenge? Where's my challenge? And sometimes you go, I don't want a challenge. I really don't want a challenge at all.
Yeah, it's challenging enough to shovel the snow.
Yes. Just shovel the patience.
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't say that, did I? Whoops. Never mind.
I'm just wondering, what size, Camille, did you have purchased?
I didn't actually make the purchase. The patient's family did, but I'm assuming it's a large. He's a fairly big man, even after not moving for 6 months. I mean, that was the reason he survived the injury, is because he's a world-class athlete. Yeah. So, but it says the sizing there. It'll say, like, if the radius of the arm is 14 inches by this size, and I'll send it to you. It'll be very clear.
Yeah. No, I mean, sorry, Camille, I mean, what website did you order from?
Oh, it's called Sabo Stim.
Okay. Okay.
And as I said, at the end of our time, I will send links for purchasing, and also for the research study that I found on intelligent textiles.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
It's just that I did at one point order some stuff from is it El Hassa Ohms website. I think it's American based anyway, but since new regulations came in Europe regarding
Oh, you might not be able to get it.
Data protection, I was just wondering, because I can't actually get into some of those websites now at all. I can't get into El Hassa Ohms now, for instance, anymore.
Yes.
And some more. Just I think the European regulations have kind of ruled out some of those sites on us anymore, which is
well, Mary Jo, I would be very happy if there's anything you cannot get, you can send it to me and I will ship it to you directly, because quite frankly, I have a lot of family and friends in Croatia, and you could do the same for me in Europe.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, we'll have to connect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But
thank you.
yeah. So anyway, I want to use Avi's time well. So enough about that sort of thing. We can take care of business items later.
That's a very good use of time, actually.
Oh, good. Okay. Well,
No,
I value what you have to say, Avi. So, thank you.
All right. So I don't. As I say to people, if you wind me up, I will have something to say.
Oh, well, and just one other comment I have on speech is that I find window of sky points to be very helpful for stimulating speech, especially because a lot of them go along the externalization of, for example, the glossopharyngeal nerve and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we basically talking about throat points.
Yes, throat points. I find that very helpful for stimulating speech. Yeah.
I will say that I don't have huge experience with stroke and speech. I have more experience with people who, like professional singers who lose their voice. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit different. Well, it's a lot different, actually. But the point that I find really useful for speech is large intestine 14, or just a little bit above it. So it's not so much, I think, my suspicion is that it's not so much that large intestine 14 does not do as much for nerve coordination, but it it does soothe out or smooth the vocal cords.
Oh, okay.
And if that doesn't work, just keep going up to even up to large intestine 15 can do the trick.
Okay.
I did have some success in the hand was very clenched when he came initially. So it has really loosened and relaxed out a bit, but he still doesn't have the power to kind of do much with it, really. But it has opened out and softened a lot. The muscle softened.
You're coming across very broken, Mary Jo. So it was a little hard to understand.
I don't know what's wrong. I'm not sure what to do, Evie. I haven't.
Fine.
I haven't. Now. Is it? Okay. I haven't done anything different than I normally do.
Oh. Okay. No worries. So you did the treatment on the arm.
Yeah.
And that worked at the beginning, and it sort of plateaued.
It did work at the beginning, and he seemed to have got some power there to kind of grasp things. Mm-hmm. But then that regressed again and kind of went back. But the hand still stayed quite relaxed. It wasn't clenched. Still like a relaxed hand. but he just seemed to have kind of lost the, the grip in it again.
Yeah. So my suggestion on that is basically, I would keep treating and then have him do some, like quote unquote PT or whatever. Just do some exercises for the arm to keep. Now that he doesn't have the clenching, the muscles can start reacquainting themselves with being able to work, and that can take a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've been basically, either in spasm or active, and it's going to take a while. So he just has to like things like squeezing a ball, for example. Things like that, and just do it, repeat, do a set of, I don't know, 10, and, and then do that 3 times and then stop and do that, see 3 or 4 times a day, right? I'm sure he's been given a bunch of exercises to try and activate the arm. But, and well, should you be able to get the Sabo in Europe, then maybe that will be useful also.
Yeah.
And maybe even just, now that the arm is more relaxed, maybe even some massage. Just to get the muscles going.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yes,
or even, I would even try and do something like cupping, but don't cup and leave the cup on, but put the cup on and take it off, put it on, take it off, put it on, you keep putting it on and off, just to get some more blood circulation going. Things like that. And then mobilize the shoulder and the elbow.
Okay.
So there's no constrictions on the way to the hand, so that the circulation is open towards the arm. So starting from, like stomach 11, 12 area, throughout lung 1, lung 2 area, the shoulder, the elbow, and then the hand might, be able to.
You're actually breaking.
I'm the one breaking up now. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I don't know if it's my line today or something, but
yeah,
it might be your snowstorm, Avi.
See if there's something I can do. Is this better?
Yeah, that's good now.
Okay. So I took out. That's fine. Then the noise is about me. It's my speaker. I took out the speaker.
Okay. Yeah, that's better now.
Great.
Yeah.
So
you were saying to cup around lung 1, 2?
No. I would cup around, the elbow or the upper arm, or even lower towards the wrist, but cup and pull it off, and just keep putting it on and off, like for a second or 2, just to get some, or even just scraping, light scraping, just to get some circulation going.
Okay.
But I would also manually manipulate the scalenes, and then have, even if he can't rotate the arm, you rotate the arm for him, both in the elbow and in the shoulder, to make sure that these areas are open.
Okay.
So everything that leads to the hand, to the grip of the hand, is being opened. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah.
All right. This was Toro. So, anyway, anything else?
Well, yes, I have one other thought, which is I'd love to hear what you have to say about repetitive stress injury, because of course you want to treat whatever whatever is going on in that area, reflex treatment. But is there anything that you could add in addition to just, strengthen the area, make it less susceptible to the repetitive stress?
Whoa. Okay. Most RSIs are in the hand. Is that correct?
Well, this particular patient that I'm thinking of, yeah, she has a very demanding job where she just writes and types all day, and she's literally come in pretty much every week for 7 or 8 years now, because we just keep sending her out to the battleground again.
Yeah. Okay, so, oh God, yeah, this is difficult. Yeah, because it's just that there are some repetitive strains that have to do with legs and with other parts, but they're usually more with athletes or manual workers. But you know, the standard is the race. So, um, so always, so I would really look at what you can do for posture, and I would really look at, okay, so yes, freeing the neck, freeing the scalenes and the lung 1, lung 2 area is going to be very important. But at the same time, there's something about how she's using her body. Now, I'm not saying that one should be typing, 10 hours or 12 hours a day without injury. I'm not trying to promote slave labor by saying, it's her fault.
Well, she also does child psychology in a hospital environment, so there's like a tremendous stress factor too of like she's pushed in terms of how many people she needs to see, and every single one of them is psychologically crushing.
And then you have to type all the damn notes so that
exactly
that you did something. Yes.
Yeah.
I would say, definitely releasing the neck is the big deal. But the other thing is, give her, in most things of that nature, if you give the person a sense of the perineal floor of what people like to call core. I don't like to use that word because people, when they think of the core, they think somewhere around their navel. And your core should be between your legs and your perineal floor. But if you give a sense of core, then there's a protection for the extremities. So there has to be a sort of almost like a slight contraction, like the lifting of the perineal floor, so that things don't like totally flop all over the place in the extremities. And by the way, in a similar manner, Ren 2, Ren 3 is also a very good point for extremities in general. It's this idea that Ren 3 is called Zhangji, the central pole. So the central pole should affect the periphery. Okay. And Ren 4, which is called Guanyuan, affects the other periphery, which is the head. But if you're looking at the limbs, then it's Ren 3 or even slightly lower. So giving people a sense and also showing them sometimes. What will happen is the person, this is not my speaker now. Anyway, what I often tell people is sit, and what happens is they often sit with their heels off the floor. And it's not because they're short. It's because what happens is that they literally, they put their toes on the ground, but they lift their heels off. And sometimes it's because they're short and what they're doing is leaning back into the chair. But what I ask them to do is I ask them to come to the front of the chair and sit on their thighs and not on their buttocks. Okay, so you want their thighs to be the weight-bearing part and not the glutes. And then I ask them to send the heels down, send the inner thigh down, and see what it feels like in the abdomen. I'm not suggesting what it should feel. It should actually feel hollow. And then I ask them, and now how does it feel in the arm? And they usually go, oh, that's pretty good, much better. Now, the problem with that is they can't maintain that posture all the time. It's too demanding. Using your, having an awareness of your legs and your core is too demanding for most people. So, and that's where it gets problematic. That they're just not, they feel like they're getting tired. They're getting tired mentally from maintaining it. So, I just tell them every so often, let's say with a patient, if she sees, child's like, every time a child or whatever comes in, send your heels down, send your thighs down, establish yourself, and then maybe 10 minutes later, do it again.
That's a very good thought, to do more coaching of her in her environment.
Yeah,
I like that. That's very insightful. Thank you. I did not have that piece.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would say is that, in terms of acupuncture, to establish that, the points that what I would use is, I'd use something on the feet, and I'll get to that in a second, but it comes to inner yin and mushu, side gallbladder 27. Those are the 2 points that give you that sense. In the foot, you can use either either kidney 6 or kidney 7 or stomach 41 or even spleen 3. And given that she has RSI in the hand, spleen 3 is likely to be suitable.
Mm-hmm.
At the top, now a lot of these people, what happens, you want to point at the top. It's often stomach 9. If not, you can do UB2. In RSI, people often do UB2 types. And the other point that you can use is under the teeth. I mean, it's under the under the chin. You can see
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
take Ren 23, go up towards the bone of the whatever this is called, the macula, and go sideways. Some people have tremendous amount of tension there.
Okay.
And if they have tension, if when you palpate, you go, "Oh my God, it's really tight." That's probably the better point for them rather than stomach 9 or UB2.
Huh. It's tight on me too.
Then stick a needle in there. And if you stick a needle in yourself, the patient gets much better, for sure. See, this is the new challenge. How can I needle myself and have the patient get better?
Good. Thank you.
That's what I would look at. And then some people like things like, but I would be careful with that. Have them lay down, say, once a day over a bolster with shoulders over the bolster, but make sure that their head is not thrown back. So they need about the same height most people need about the same height as the bolster that's under the shoulder blades for their head. Otherwise, it's like thrown back. Very few people can actually arch in the chest and have the head go down and touch the treatment table with a bolster under the blades. Without them throwing the head back. It requires a lot of flexibility in upper thoracics. And there are two things you want to do. Do not have them use a foam roller and use it along the spine. I've had quite a few patients that do that, and physical therapists recommend that. It's quite dangerous because it can, at times, and I've seen this quite a few times, create spasms in the back. And then the person can't get rid of the spasms. Like I've had patients who've come to me because they've lied down with a foam roller along the spine. What you want to do is at 90 degrees to the spine, level with the shoulder blades. And I prefer a bolster that's a little softer, it has a little bit of a give, than a foam roller which doesn't. And it's good for rolling, not for laying.
Okay. And do you like it rounded or flat or? I
like the round ones.
Okay.
I mean, there are ones that are more oval. The ones I use eventually become a little bit more oval, a little flatter because of the weight. So it does sometimes become a little flatter. But if you mean something that's more like a cube or a rectangle, no. I'm looking at
right. Yeah. Okay. And then, I'm sorry, did I interrupt? Did you have more?
No, go ahead.
So I also wanted to know, what do you call this point under the mandible, and what else would it release, or what else does it refer to, or how else would you use it?
Okay, so I don't have a name for it. Somebody else has decided that it's called the tooth fairy point.
I think there's a dong point called tooth fairy, if I'm not mistaken.
I think there's a double sun, double fairy.
Double sun, double fairy. Okay, that's the point. Okay, so we have the tooth fairy point. I was going to just call it the mandible point. How boring of me.
Perfect. No, I think that's much more descriptive. So quite honestly, it's part of this protocol. So I guess that if before I die I don't come up with another protocol, this will be the protocol that if anybody ever remembers me, I'll be remembered for this protocol, which is kidney 6, inner yin, mushu, and either stomach 9, tooth fairy, or mandible and UB2, one of those three. And that protocol is meant to create that sense of the legs supporting you. and kind of hollow out a little bit the abdomen and the front of the spine. And the reason you need the top points is what happens is, first of all, you're trying to coordinate the 3 diaphragms of the body. Okay, so the diaphragm, the perineal diaphragm, and the vocal cord diaphragm. That's where stomach 9 is kind of more obvious. But what happens is when people don't have a sense of their legs, of pushing down in the leg so that they can lift up, they'll start grabbing at the top of, in the shoulders, the neck, wherever the extremities start activating because the core is not working. So what you're trying to do is trying to release the top in order for the person to have no choice but to grab, quote unquote, the core. Okay? So that's the purpose of the point. This point itself doesn't do much else, as far as I know. I can't say, oh, by the way, this is for kidney stones.
Okay. So can I just confirm the combination again? Because I think I missed something. Kidney 6, inner yin, UB2, tooth fairy, and...
Okay, you missed the main one, which is side gallbladder 27 or mushu. Take Ren 4, go all the way to the side below gallbladder 26. So it's under the ASIS in the glute medius. That's the main point, really. Inner yin is another main point. Those 2 points, inner yin and mushu, don't change. They're always in this protocol. The original protocol, I started with kidney 6 because when you press your heel down and lift the inner ankle bone up, you get a stimulation up the inner thigh. Okay, so that's a beginning. But you can get that not just from kidney 6. So, but originally I worked with kidney 6, and there's a historical reason for it. It came from a sentence in the Heart Sutra, basically, that says the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara shed light on herself and found herself empty, therefore she overcame ill-being. The expression ill-being is ku. Ku is bitter, which means the grass that's been around 10 times, so it has no juice. Is literally is which is literally a person hunched over. The pictograph of it is a person hunched over. Shed light. So we shed light in order to overcome ill-being. And shedding light, the expression is zao jian. There is a zao in the body, which is zao hai, which is kidney 6. So that's where I arrived at this idea that let me try kidney 6, see what it does for posture and to overcome ill-being. And it happens to work. But I will say this, kidney 7 by name, by location also, although kidney 6 is supposed to be pretty good. Kidney 7, there is a sort of falling down of the muscles. If you push it up, if you needle it up, that does the same trick that kidney 6 will do. Spleen 3 can do the same thing, and spleen 3 is called the great white. And white is spelled, it's a picture of the sun with a dot above it, so it means dawn, something that rises. That's when everything looks white. And other point that does a pretty good job often is stomach 41. Okay. So basically what you have in this protocol is a point in the foot or around the foot, a point in the thigh to activate the thighs, a point in the glute medius to get a point in the glute medius to activate the core, and then you have a point at the top to relax the top. And now that, so here you have 3 options. You do the tooth fairy or stomach 9. You choose one of the 3, not all 3. So basically you have the protocol is 4 points, a foot point, a neck or head point, plus inner yin and mushu.
Thank you. Okay. And hopefully I will get the right spot for inner yin. I mean, not for inner yin, for wushu.
So literally go to Ren 4 and go all the way to the side.
Okay.
And look for it's a rare person that doesn't have something ropey or gummy around there.
Okay. Okay.
Very rare. Now, just know it's definitely under the ASAS. You're looking for the glute medius. People say, I don't know why, but people often ask me, what's the difference between Mushu and gallbladder 26? Yes, they're both on the side, but gallbladder 26 is level with the navel. Mushu is quite a bit below. It's level with Ren 4.
Thank you so much.
What we're trying to do is because the glute medius is a muscle that gives you a side-to-side balance. So that's another concept that this whole thing started from, this protocol started from. There's a phrase that has to do with, if I can get this right. Hold on. I got distracted by the noises. Anyway, it's easefulness.
I'm sorry? It's the
easefulness. How do we create easefulness in the body?
Uh-huh.
And again, I took it from non-medical literature, but basically there's a character that ease, because if we say easeful, the expression is in Chinese will be jiao du, the opposite of easefulness is when you lose the lift. You lift. So which means you want to have a lift in the body in order for the body to be spacious and easeful. So to lose the lift, and how are they describing the character that describes the lift? Jiao is like two hands coming from the side and extending. It's actually character or whatever, but and actually if you're looking at the character Shen, to extend, like UB62, part of this protocol, okay, because it doesn't seem to work, kidney 6 does. Shen, to extend, people think that it's like it's a little bit like the center, but without the center stroke, but it actually isn't. It's meant to show two hands coming together to lengthen. It's like squeezing the toothpaste in the tube. You have to come from the sides and squeeze. You have to squeeze from both sides in order to lengthen the toothpaste. Okay, so that's lengthening. That sort of squeeze from the side. If you think about it, where else in the body can you squeeze from the side in order to lift? Anywhere else you squeeze, if you squeeze at the knees, say it's gallbladder 34, okay, the knees are just going to bend. If you squeeze the knees together, the knees are just going to buckle. If you squeeze the rib cage, you'll get some lift. So gallbladder 22 might be a decent idea. If you squeeze it at the elbows are just going to stop. The place where you're actually going to be able to squeeze from the side is at the hips. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So in terms of location, that's why, it's like, is it level with Ren 4? Is it level with Ren 3? Who cares? As long as it's in the glute medius. Does that, the original description of the point was, and it's called Mushu because it's between the mu and the shu. It's on the side. So, but really, it's about it being on the side and being in the glute medius.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Mary Jo? Well, I want to give her a chance too.
I don't know if it's my line today, but it's the conversations are very broken up.
Yes, they are.
What I was wondering if you might have any thoughts on, Effie, was bursitis in the knee joint.
Okay. Yes.
I know you mentioned spleen 9 for knees generally.
No. I wouldn't go to spleen 9 when it's the knee. Okay, spleen 9 I would use for bursitis in the hip.
Okay.
So my go-to points, the first things I think about knees, stomach 41 and spleen 5. These are my go-tos. Then for the other thing about, so for bursitis, what I would look at something in the quad along the stomach channel between stomach 31 and 32. And I would look for a dent or a bump in the quad and needle it slightly downwards. You might also get some mileage out of gallbladder 29, but on the front of the trochanter, but you get better mileage from the stomach channel. And the thing to do, and then you could also use like somewhere around spleen 10 and somewhere around stomach 34, but you can go more sideways on both of them towards the liver and the gallbladder, sort of to lift the quad, because what happens is you need to lift the quad to help the knee. If there's too much, the bursitis itself is one story, but the thing is, you keep having all this pressure on it. Okay, sorry, it's the noise that happened. Anyway, what happens is that there's all this weight that goes into the knee that contributes. So I would look into lifting the quads up to strengthen the quads. And then the last thing I would look at is 26, especially if the pain is towards the middle of the knee, as opposed to the lateral knee. The spleen 9 business is what I'm saying is that meniscus pain, ACLs tend to show more towards than on the inner knee eye. Inner knee eye is more meniscus style. But I do not needle spleen 9 if somebody has a knee problem. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. I think I got some of that, Abby.
Oh, okay. You know, I'm not sure what's going on. I think some of the noise, it might be from my computer still, but I tried to disconnect everything. Camille, are you typing on the same computer that you're on?
The last discussion, since you started talking about bursitis, it really was cutting out a lot, and I'm going to probably go back and listen to the recording and hope that I could get more, but I really couldn't get half of every sentence was cut out.
Okay, I'm wondering if you were typing, because what happens is what I'm noticing is that when someone is typing, that's when the noise seems to come. So I'm wondering if somehow there's a weirdness in that. But
well, at that point, I wasn't typing very much because I couldn't hear you.
Okay. So, all right, I will repeat it just, because, so basically the go-to points for these are stomach 41 and spleen 5.
Okay.
You can substitute the stomach chi line for stomach 41 if you find bumps along the stomach line below stomach 40. But stomach 41 tends to be my preferred point. Then for bursitis, I would definitely look for between stomach 31 and stomach 32, usually it's closer to stomach 31, I would look for a bump in the quad on the stomach line and needle it slightly downwards. And I would add to it spleen 10 and stomach 34, both of which can go a little bit towards the liver channel, a little bit towards the gallbladder channel, and I needle those upwards, sort of giving the quad a facelift, making sure the quad's not falling into the knee. And often gallbladder 26 does a good job if the pain is on the middle side, on the medial side, as opposed to the lateral side. And one more point that I would suggest is on the back, bladder 36 and the sacroiliac ligaments. Sacroiliac ligaments are good for anything to do with bending and stretching. Mm-hmm. Okay, so bursitis in the knee has to do with bending and stretching of the knee. And the other thing is level with L5, or you can go out to the dimple at the posterior iliac crest and needle that downwards. That's considered blood supply to the legs. That'll be like your four corners.
Yeah.
Was that better?
Yes, that was better. Thank you, Debbie. Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Anything else?
Do you, I don't have anything else, Evie. Camille, like to.
Well, I do, but honestly, because of the cutting out, I would almost hold my question for next time. I don't know if it's the snowstorm or what it is, but I have nothing urgent left, so I would almost pend it.
All right. No.
But the next question I'm very interested in is shingles.
Oh, okay. Boy, shingles in the torso.
Actually, I have one patient with it in the face and the other in the neck.
Okay. So definitely immune point.
Yeah.
Treating the autonomic nervous system because it travels down the nerve. So releasing the SCM, just to make, because shingles, I mean, yes, shingles is, it's smallpox reincarnated kind of thing, right? It's supposed to be, like it's a virus, but it's a virus that's been dormant in your body.
Right.
In your, and then it comes, I mean, we had that discussion on email at some point. I
Right.
That, do we want to bringing it back to latency the right strategy? And I think it is.
Yes.
That trying to express it out and get rid of it, you can't get rid of it apparently. Anyway, so immune point, release the autonomic nervous system, and then check the fire points of all the meridians that it goes to, and do the metal water of those meridians.
Okay. That's an interesting thought. Yes.
Yeah. And then if it's in the neck, I would consider checking the REN2 area, the pubic bone area, stomach 30 degrees, and needling. And for the face, I don't have a good equivalent.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we got away without too much noise, it seems like.
Yeah, that one was good. Good. And I think those are my questions for today. I don't have anything off the top of my head.
All right. Good. So we'll meet next week. Oh, sorry. Next week I can't because I'm at Jeffrey's class.
Okay.
So in 2 weeks.
Okay. I'm sorry I'll miss you there.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I know.
Yeah.
And well, yes. So enjoy your December, hopefully without snow.
Oh, it's warm in Houston.
It's warm. Okay, good. I'm very jealous.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I will talk to you guys on the 16th.
Okay. Thank you so much, Avi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.